Good morning, brothers. JK, your brother in the struggle here, on my way back from the gym. Our Biochemistry Reboot Challenge is in full swing. So if you're looking to drop body fat, create your ideal body, learn about nutrition that's going to make you feel good, learn how to nurture your body in a way that can optimize your energy level and your mood throughout the day, and then make that a lifestyle, then the Biochemistry Challenge is for you. In addition, we also talk about erectile dysfunction, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, and all the things that affect you down there. We talk about how to optimize it. We talk about supplementation. We talk about things that I don't think I can legally speak about most of them on YouTube or even on my podcast. So within this private group, that's the place where you can do that. So there's a link to schedule a call with one of my Reboot strategists for that. If you're trying to end your out of control behavior and you'd like to become a part of our implementation or intensive program, absolutely fine. Just whenever you're done speaking to the Reboot strategist about the behavioral part of your life, your behavior with porn, sex, and masturbation, just ask them, hey man, I'm curious about the Biochemistry Challenge. What is it about? And they'll spend a couple of minutes talking to you about it. Today, gentlemen, I am going to talk about spiritual reboot capital. For those of you who are like, what the fuck is reboot capital, JK? I don't know why I use that voice. I'm just a little bit pumped after the gym. I'm in a good mood. Yeah. It's a nice day. Okay, so reboot capital, just as you are, if somebody's starting a business, if they want the business to be successful, if they want the business to last long enough to become profitable, you need capital, which simply means that you need more than enough resources to start a business. So let's say you're starting a brick and mortar shopfront business. Maybe it's like, what do I have here? Like there's a KFC next to me, right? So you want to start a KFC, you need enough revenue to purchase the franchise license, to stock it, to get all the different equipment for the kitchen, to market it, and so on. But it's not going to be profitable yet. It might be a couple of years before the franchise that you purchase is profitable. Similarly, in all the other areas of your life, you need what we call reboot capital, the spiritual aspect, physical, mental, emotional, and so on. So these areas of your life, during your out of control behavior, you are not developing every area of that life. I think we can all agree to that. You either let the spiritual part atrophy, you're like a muscle that you don't use, it just wastes away, or you let the mental aspect atrophy, or you did the same with the physical aspect or the social aspect. So I'm going to speak briefly about the spiritual aspect because it's another area that a lot of men are a little bit, I'm not sure about that. The first thing I want to talk about is what the spiritual aspect of reboot capital is not. Now, I'm not a religious person. I've said that many times. It is not about giving up your power to a higher power. It is not about being religious. It is not about praying. It's not even necessarily about meditating. All of these things have their place, and they can even have their place in a reboot. Right? So even if you're a religious person, faith has a place in a reboot. If you're a person who meditates, definitely has a place in your reboot. However, it is often neglected. If we consider, let's say, the physical aspect of your reboot, right? Let's say your health, nutrition, sleep. If we look at the social aspect of your reboot, which is, the different relationships you have, your connections, your social connections, which are very important. If we take a look at the emotional aspect of your reboot, and we take a look at the mental part of your reboot, that is your intellectual capacity and your knowledge, not just about rebooting, but about every aspect of your life. If we consider those four to be the four tires of a car, then the spiritual reboot capital would actually be the steering wheel, right? It is the thing that, because to develop deeply in spiritual capital, you do have to have your own moral code. You do need to have your values and standards in place and some semblance of a moral compass. And as you guys know, it's very difficult to have an accurate, I wouldn't say an accurate, but a well-developed moral compass due to the shit we watch, right? When it comes to pornography. I remember back in the day, at the height of my out-of-control behavior, I really watched some stuff that made me realize that I could claim to be a good human being as much as I wanted, but in those deep moments of fantasy, I watched shit where people were getting hurt, right? I'm not saying that people were getting physically hurt, nor am I going to trigger anybody with the type of material I watched. There's much worse stuff out there these days, I believe, but I watch stuff where people who are getting hurt, emotionally, mentally, or otherwise. And I thought about this, how can I consider myself to be a moral person, much less a spiritual person, if that's the kind of stuff that I'm watching, if that's the type of stuff that gets me off? There's no excuse for it. Like, oh, well, once in a while, fantasy. But I was doing this shit compulsively on an almost daily basis. So that was a reflection of the type of person I was on the inside. And a lot of brothers are like, oh my God, I'm struggling to maintain my reboots. Yeah, sure, you can build up those other areas, the other tires, the mental, the physical, the social, emotional. But if you don't have a moral compass, if you don't have an idea of any sort of idea, no matter how tiny it is, of who I am and what I am here for, then this journey is going to be quite challenging for you. All right? Again, it's not about being woo-woo. It's not about religion. It's about your connection to your existence. And as part of your existence, there is the existence of other beings. Your compulsive behavior with pornography and masturbation would not exist in a vacuum. It exists because there are other human beings. And in fact, it is continued because there are human beings who can be exploited. So the continuous pain, mental, emotional, and physical pain of other human beings when it comes to pornography, sex trafficking, and so on, I won't get into all of that, is one of the things that keeps your out of control behavior alive. And you can try and put your head in the ground like an ostrich and pretend that all that shit doesn't exist. But brother, all that stuff exists in that industry. It's a dirty, dirty industry. So how do you develop spiritual reboot capital? Well, before I go into that, I actually don't feel that I've emphasized something very important enough. There are only two certainties in life, brother. The first is that you and I, well, we're gonna fucking die one day, all right? And the second is that in our time on this planet, in our brief time, you know, in the grand scheme of things, when we look at the universe, our time here is it's barely a blink. It's just nothing, really. In that brief time, you and I are going to experience tragedy. I'll say it again. Two certainties, that you and I will die, and secondly, you and I are going to experience some form of tragedy. And these two things, when I say tragedy, I don't mean like we're going to experience a series of unfortunate events. Like we're going to experience some really tragic stuff that rocks us to the core of our being, that makes us question our existence, maybe through the loss of somebody close to us, or maybe a loss to one of our senses, a loss to something in our physical body, a loss of something emotionally or mentally for us. And that's a certainty. It's going to happen one way or the other. And brothers, you cannot run away from that. So bearing that in mind, you want to ask yourself, well, what aspect of my reboot capital is going to protect me from this? And you might be going like, well, why should I do that? I don't know what the fuck they do in other recovery programs, okay? We're not a recovery program. We reboot here. But this is about, I've mentioned this before, we are a holistic program. We are going to address every aspect of your life. I'm not going to let you leave my program after you've rewired your brain after a year and a half to 2 years, and then go out into the world and then just face the reality of the world without any tools. That's why we talk about your spiritual reboot capital. It is so important to build this up so that you have something that can help you in those moments of tragedy and in those moments where you or someone very close to you has to face the very real reality of our finite, physical at least, existence on this planet. A point will come in your life where there is nothing that can help you, where all the resources that you believed in will fail you. All of them will fail you. Your religion might even fail you if there's no spiritual aspect to your religion. If you're a guy who just reads your holy book and goes through the motions and claims that he has faith, in those moments it would not save you, because you did not actually develop a spiritual base. You did not truly put in the work. Yes, religion even has work. Spirituality has work. You did not put in the work to get a sense, a unique sense of who and what you are and what your purpose is here. And when I say purpose, I don't mean like, oh, what am I going to do in life? It's like, okay, there's some sense of a reason for me being here. Maybe not for the duration of my life, but for this very moment in my life. For instance, Yesterday I was speaking with some clients, and God, we went deep, right? It was one-on-one calls with my private clients and my intensive clients. Let me just emphasize that we do take 20 calls. That's what they're called. And we went deep, and I was like, you know what? At this moment, this is our purpose. I don't know how we ended up where we are. Like, I don't see the cosmic connections, not to sound woo-woo. But at this very moment, this brother that I'm speaking to needed to hear what I had to say, and I needed to hear his story. I really did, because personally, I gain something from every client. I remember something. There's even something I can apply to my life. There's something I can use to help another client. But at that very moment, it was almost perfect. So I don't know what the future is going to bring, and I'm not, oh, my purpose in the future. But I know at that moment, like, this was right. It was the right thing. Like, I wasn't questioning my existence. I was like, oh, what is my purpose? Why am I here? When I woke up in the morning and I thought about yesterday, I went like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to feel on purpose today all day, but I know that yesterday, like less than 24 hours ago, I certainly felt that way. Now, if you're wondering how you can develop spiritual reboot capital, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not here to become conscious JK. I will say this very much. Begin by being kind. Begin by being kind to other people whom you don't necessarily know. The reason why I believe that kindness is the easiest path to spirituality is because it requires you to do something for somebody else who needs it. You don't know this person, you don't have this connection. This is another person who's just floating around in the world that may need some sort of support, and you're not asking for any specific kind of recognition for it. You just do that, even if you don't necessarily feel like it. One of the things that I've noticed that happens with brothers who do this is that slowly they begin to develop empathy. A lot of your emotions have been numbed due to your out of control behavior. And so when you start doing this, you develop empathy. And the more you do it, you start to realize that, oh, I feel good when I do this. Not in like a look at me do this. You know, I feel there's a weird positive feeling when I help somebody, especially somebody that I do not know and I will probably never see again. Over time, you begin to develop the quality of compassion, which is a very important quality. And when you can start sharing that compassion with others, you develop the capacity to be compassionate with yourself. And that is where a lot of other important aspects of your spiritual reboot capital are developed, especially things like forgiveness. There is so much that we need to forgive ourselves for. And we are unable to do that unless, at least to the highest levels, the emotional reboot capital can take you far, unless we develop this very important aspect of spiritual reboot capital. I would like to keep talking about this, but I do have to get started on my day. I do want to know what you guys think so far, just as a test, what you guys think of this concept. We've been using it for a long time. It has helped many brothers, especially brothers in the intensive program, have been developing in this by leaps and bounds. And it's a very important aspect of the final stage of your reboots, which is the maintenance stage of your reboots. You have the 4 tires, which you used to drive, but you got to get that steering wheel working well. You've got to give it some of that, what do they call it? That fluid, whatever the fuck it's called, right? You need some of that so that you can move your vehicle in the right direction. You can use it to take you wherever you want to go. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll speak to you later on in the week. Now, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, like, even share it, brothers. Share it with brothers who might need it, and then leave a comment. I do my best to respond to comments, and we release videos 4 times a week, every week. Quite honestly, these days I release a video literally every day. So if you enjoy it, you'd like to learn more about your behavior, this is the place to be. I appreciate you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.